What a great car, Mazda MX5 RF. Mazda created the first MX5 about 27 years ago. And 27 years ago, they didn't imagine for a minute that they'd create an instant classic, but it became an instant classic. Really incredibly clever. Double wishbones at the front and multi-link suspension at the back. It's very light, it weighs just 1,080 kilos for this base model version. There's 3 versions of the RF and they range for the cloth top from about 38,000 to the top, hard top, folding roof, 48,000. It's an absolute cracker of a car. Let's have a sticky beak at the roof in detail. The roof is really clever. It's in 3 bits. This bit is aluminium, this little bit here is steel, and this back bit, which is part of the buttresses and the roof cover, is plastic. What that means is when it folds back, the back window, the middle section and the front section all fold down inside here. These buttresses fold back and the whole lot goes straight into the boot. This part of the boot is 127 litres and is slightly smaller than the ragtop version. The ragtop version is 130 litres, this is 127. It's a fairly smooth operation and pretty quick too. You can do it at a set of lights, but I wouldn't want to risk it. Inside you've got these cup holders. Perfect for a decent sized cup of coffee. But if that should be in your way, you can take it out and put it just here where there is a companion piece to it. And there's a little hatch just here where you can store them both if you don't want them. Manual air conditioning, and this is your control center. First thing is, there's no reverse camera, which drives me potty. They've fallen over at the last hurdle. So 27 years ago, when MX5 first came out, as I just said, they wouldn't have thought it was going to be an instant classic, but an instant classic it is. Now, MX5 comes in 5 different models, if you like. There's 2 models of the cloth top, which have a 1.5 and a 2 litre engine, a 96 litre 1.5 turbo and a 118 kilowatt 2 litre turbo. The solid roofed RF models only have the 2 litre 118 kilowatt turbo. There's plenty of power for overtaking. It may not seem like a lot, and a lot of people have compared MX5 to Toyota's 86. In a lot of ways that's not a fair comparison for 2 reasons. One, 86 and Subaru's BRZ have 4 seats, well, 2 plus 2 seats. And you really can't compare a convertible to a solid fixed roof car. It just isn't fair, nor can you compare a 2-seater car to a 4-seater car. It's come over sunny, but before it was horribly cloudy. But here's a few shots of our weekend away last weekend, and that is what this car is all about. It is all about you and a friend, or just you if you're feeling particularly greedy, having a great time in a great car. The suspension is quite sophisticated, double wishbones at the front and multi-link at the back, and it gives the car a beautiful ride as well as great handling. The steering is electric, but it's still got reasonable feel. With the top down, however, at highway speed, I noticed the characteristic of the steering changed quite a lot. And I don't think I liked it very much, or at least not as much as I did with the roof up or at low speeds. The boot. A lot of people make a lot of noise about the boot and how small it is, and you can't go away for a weekend, and you can't do this and you can't do that. Well, look, I'm here to tell you that you can. Here's video of us unpacking the car last weekend. It's only shot with my iPhone, so please excuse the rubbish quality. But we got a shoulder bag, a shoulder satchel I should say, a knapsack, a couple of pillows, and two very large, quite solidly packed, soft weekend duffels. As well, we had a couple of little items that we shoved in an old Coles bag. What that shows is that although only 170 litres, there's more than enough capacity for you and a friend to go for a weekend away, as we did. The manual transmission, an absolute peach, and is always my pick. It is unbelievably easy to use. There's a nice, light, easy to use clutch, but still has a lot of feeling, and a nice gradual take up of the gear. The engine is incredibly flexible, so it allows you to use the gears as you want to, not as the engine dictates. The throw, so the distance the gear lever moves, is only 40 millimeters, and this was carried over from the very first MX5 27 years ago. Thankfully, a lot of other things have improved. This base model RF has manual air conditioning. The next model up gets automatic climate control. We also have blind spot monitoring, which is invaluable. Though, as I said, no reversing camera, which I think is just ridiculous, given that we've gotten this quite smart tablet, 6-inch tablet sitting in the middle of the dashboard. Driver's instruments are fairly basic. There is a gear indicator to tell you when to change gears, and I'll decide when I change gears, thank you very much. It's telling me when to do it for economy. The 1,080 kilos, which is light for any car, you can throw it around corners with near perfect weight distribution, which MX-5s have always been known for. Folding roof is part of a mechanism that's heavy in any car. And in this car they seem to have gotten away with it, and it's because the roof is in several parts that the back doesn't look really fat like some metal folding roofs do. There's a lot to be said for the way this is laid out. The interior is nice and simple. It's back to basics motoring. I love the body coloured highlights inside. Of course, that's plastic. You're not allowed to use metal anymore, which is a real shame, because that added a highlight. But that brings me neatly to the looks. Now, a lot of you might think that this looks quite heavy at the back. Those buttresses, the bits that stick out of near the back window, give the back of the car quite a lot of bulk. But it also gives it a fabulously retro look, and it harkens back to the wonderful Lotus, a Porsche, some of those great cars from the 60s that we loved, 60s and 70s, that have now become classics, and they weren't anywhere near as smart or as clever as this car is. There are a few things missing. There's no emergency braking because there's no camera above the windscreen, which I think is a little bit sad. Next year you'll need that to get 5 stars. If you don't have a emergency braking, you will not get a 5-star rating on the base model. So this will need to be on the cloth top model. Of course, they just won't test it again. So this car would have had 5 stars when tested. There are a few things too about driving with the roof down, and that is at highway speeds there is a lot of wind noise. I've got the windows up now, but with the windows down there's quite a lot of noise. You get that in every convertible, but it's particularly noticeable in this one. With the roof down, there's just this little bit of glass here as a protection against drafts. And draft excluders are essential, believe me, especially in cold weather. The audio system is not too bad. It's a 6-speaker system in the base models and a 9-speaker system in the upper grades. And there is also on this car 2 speakers in the driver's seat. The upper grades get 2 speakers, an additional 2 speakers in the passenger seat. And it's supposed to help you with making and receiving telephone calls too, as well as listening to your audio. However, I don't think I'm game enough to even attempt to do a hands-free call with the roof down. I think that would just not end well. Fuel consumption is amazing. We're sitting now at 6.6 litres per 100 kilometres. That is after quite a lot of highway driving on the weekend, last weekend. Now the good thing about this is that you can have great motoring and good performance without the massive fuel bill that comes from a 6-cylinder or a V8. I'm not sure, but I think Mazda has cracked it by going back to basics with this car. The previous model had gotten a little bit fat and a little bit awkward and had lost some of the charm that made the MX5 a classic. When it comes to cars for sheer indulgence, a 2-seater sports car is about as indulgent as it gets. You can't take anybody else with you, and nor would you want to. I really rate MX5's performance, and I really rate MX5's handling. It's the ride that's really surprised me. It's quite compliant and fairly luxurious. We do clunk and bump over a few bumps, but I can handle that for the sake of the rest of the pleasure that goes with driving a convertible. Because there's only 127 litres in the boot, there's no spare, not even a space saver, and that could be an issue. It does have one of those electric inflation kits, but I've never successfully gotten any of those things to work. The problem with them is that most of the times you need those inflation kits, whatever's caused the tyre to deflate is beyond the capacity of the kit to fix. It can't be more than 6 mil. You can't have driven on it for too long. It can't have sat on the wheel for too long. It's really just a waste. On a trip, you could, if you wanted to, strap a space saver spare to the top of the boot lid. I've seen that done. It looks great, and there's some great aftermarket accessories that fit to the top of the boot. Yes, you do lose even more rear view, which I have to say is pretty awful with or without the roof up. The mirrors are quite small, so you really don't get much of an idea of what's going on behind you when you're reversing. When you're going straight ahead, however, it's okay. The tyres have plenty of grip, and going around corners on these 17-inch wheels, you never ever feel like it's going to let go. Now you might notice that I haven't been changing gears very much, and that goes to show you that if the limit in here is 60, if you stick to the speed limit in a car that handles well, you don't even need to slow down for any of the corners. We're in the Royal National Park at the moment, and I'm just ascending out of the park back up to the highway. Just delightful. And of course this is what a sporty little nippy convertible or hot hatch is made for. Nipping. And this thing handles like a cat on carpet. Actually handles like a kitten on carpet. It's so playful and jumpy. The good thing about MX5 compared to 86 is that MX5 feels gentle. The handling is gentle. Everything is communicated to the driver both through the steering wheel and through the through the seat. It's not twitchy. The 86 was made for drifters. You could probably drift this too, because importantly, it's driven by the back wheels. Okay, as promised, I'm about to turn onto a section of highway. I want you to hear how noisy it is. Now, the engine noise, of course, is fake. So here we are now at 100, and the wind noise is fairly impressive. It really is a brilliant car, purpose built solely for enjoyment.